Thanks so much, Graham. Well, relationships have their ups and downs, and having differences that result in an argument is bound to happen where two people strive to coexist. But is fighting healthy in a relationship? And if there's fighting, who is right and who is wrong? And what is the wrong or right way to do so? Well, to discuss this morning, we have our resident relationship expert in studio, Dr. Malene Wassermans here, better known as Dr. Eve, and author of that book, Cyber Infidelity. Now, if you want to give us a call this morning, 0839133728 is the number to dial. We're also heading to the streets first, where we're asking you about this topic. Is fighting in a relationship healthy? And are you doing it?
To a certain extent, I think fighting is healthy because it establishes the relationships in terms of you guys understanding each other.
I definitely believe fighting is a healthy part of a relationship. As to what it achieves, pretty much a closer bond between the two of you, because you have to go through bad times for good times, and the good times will be even better with a bad time.
Is fighting a healthy part of the relationship? Definitely, but it has to be one that takes you forward. And what I mean by that is that conflict is inevitable between two people. It's two different characteristics, but it shouldn't be something that's perpetual, because that signals that something is definitely wrong.
I don't think fighting is a necessary or healthy part of relationship, although it does help with certain issues that you guys weren't aware were there. But in general, if you guys fight for things that can be resolved or things that weren't there. Don't fight because of like silly little things and things that could be avoided. Some people fight unnecessarily because of breakdown in communication. So, I mean, fighting is not really necessary. You can do without.
Well, you heard it. All couples do fight. Is that true, Dr. Eve? Do all couples fight?
You know, if couples sit down on my couch and they tell me that they don't have conflict, I begin to feel uncomfortable and the red flags pop up. Because that means that there isn't intimacy, that means that there's too much politeness, that means that there's too much overt conversation happening where people are not really talking about what they feel, and they're afraid to raise differences and they're afraid to raise their real feelings, so they kind of keep the peace. And that tells me that there is fear that's happening in that relationship.
Because they're holding back.
Yeah, because they're afraid if they do voice an opinion, what the consequences can be. And let's be honest, it can be really bad consequences in that there can be abuse, which is on the one extreme of the continuum, but there also can be any kind of difference that is shown, which I hope there would be. But what it does, it brings out incredibly uncomfortable feelings in each one of us, which is why we avoid conflict.
I just want to say something before we continue the conversation. So we're talking about fighting, but we're talking about arguing in relationships before we get a Facebook comment of someone misunderstanding us. So this is about arguments in relationships. We're not talking about physical fighting. Dr. Eve will touch on that. We call that abuse. Okay, so we're talking about arguments. That's how we say fight. Okay, we're talking about verbal fighting.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Eve, fighting, you just said something. So you say if we don't fight, argue in a relationship, it's unhealthy, and there's immediate flags that goes down for you. So fighting in a romantic relationship, it's considered healthy?
It is. It can be an incredibly intimate experience, which if they do it in a healthy adult manner, we'll have a look at what that is, because it gives you an opinion to really feel this person is my person, I feel understood, I feel heard, which is the most important thing that people want to feel in relationship. So if you're avoiding that opportunity, you are really putting yourself under enormous physical pressure and stress and physical physical illness as well, if you keep suppressing your thoughts and opinions and your ideas.
So I'm devil's advocate, and I'm saying, but if we have just discussions and communicate, we don't have to fight.
Well, that would for me be fighting as well. If you talk about fighting, I guess I need to ask you, if your definition of fighting meaning raising voices and showing anger. If people can just communicate in a very healthy way, I would still consider that fighting, but in a very healthy kind of way. It's expressing differences, and every single couple has got to be challenged on how to manage it. The success of any relationship is how well people fight.
But Dr. Eve, I want to win. He must keep quiet.
So if he's going to keep quiet in the relationship, that means that he's shut down.
Talking.
He's shut down, exactly. He's shut down and he's gone out the fight. And that means that you're going to end up feeling terribly abandoned, terribly lonely, and terribly frustrated. So you build more and more anger up in you, and then your fight's going to become more vicious and more verbal and more vocal. If you are accepting that actually we're going to do this with respect, we're going to listen to what each other has to say, we have a good opportunity to learn.
I'm glad you said that. arguing or fighting with respect, because
Yeah.
I want to get to name calling. I want to get to when
Right.
is it abuse.
Right.
I want to get to conversation. So do we not rather work through things instead of fighting about it? Again,
Yeah.
we say that this is arguing in relationships. 0839133728 if you want to give us a call.